is Tuesday, October 4th, 2022. I'm here at the cemetery. This is my first time coming to the cemetery after Hurricane Ian that just came through here this past week. Lots and lots of debris here at the cemetery. And today is also the landscapers day, so oh my gosh, they're gonna have a really big job to clean up. As with everything in life, it's really hard to see any devastation unless you actually see it with your own eyes. And regardless of the amount of damage, anywhere, well, everywhere did see some sort of damage from this hurricane. With all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and clean the headstone today of Maxine young Flynt and her husband Hubert Solomon Flynt. I find this interesting. Both of you lived to be the same age, 76 years old. Maxine, you were born 1908 and you transitioned to heaven in 1984. And Hubert, you were born in 1904 and you transitioned in 1981. Even the dates there are all the same. The numbers 19 and the 8 and 4. Very interesting. Maxine and Hubert, I hope you both had a good life. I hope neither of you feared your death. And I hope you are both enjoying your eternal life in heaven and everywhere still on earth in your own spirit ways. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started on cleaning your headstone. I see you have one of the headstones. I have such a frog in my throat this morning. You have one of the truly rocky headstones, which all my years of cleaning headstones, I know which headstone not to get for me. If I even get a headstone. LOL. The rocky ones, they just seem to really pick up all the moss and, well, anything with crevices, the elements of life are going to creep into. This is a beautiful headstone. All headstones are beautiful. Interestingly enough, most people, I think it's fair to say, I don't have any statistics on it, but I think it's fair to say, most people don't even want to think about their death, and they don't want to think about the death of a loved one, and so they do wait until death to make any arrangements. I've believed for years that it's important for us all to embrace the reality that we all die. So wouldn't it be nice if we could all be a part of planning our own funeral? It's not as crazy as it sounds, honestly. It's not crazy at all. When we get married, aren't we a part of planning our wedding to some degree? Unless you're like me and I just say, go ahead, Mom, plan it all. But it is something we as a universe really tend to not want to think about. It's called classic avoidance. We don't want to think about death. And yet the truth is, when we don't think about death, we really aren't thinking about life either. We're living a very unawakened, unemotional life when we do not accept the reality of death. And one of the biggest things I've been saying for a very long time now is that death is but a breath. Death is an inhale and exhale. And then we are taken to a whole other universe. It's not about proving to anybody where we go. It's about finding out for ourselves where we want to believe that we go. I believe in heaven, but that doesn't mean I judge anybody who doesn't believe in heaven. I'm not a preacher. I'm not here to preach to anybody about what we should believe. Though I really do strongly believe we really should all think about death and embrace the reality that we do all die. And when you come to a cemetery, you see from newborn infants to people who live to be over 100 years old. So we see that it's not all about age, and there really are a million ways to die. I don't even know if that number can be quantified, to be honest. A million ways, who knows? We can die in so many ways. Illness, car accidents, murder, suicide, heart attacks, cancer, other diseases and illnesses, hurricanes. I think the last toll I heard, there were over 80 deaths from Hurricane Ian here in Florida. And I think what's sad is that when the news reports such information, people do rely on quantifications. And so they think, oh, only 80 people died? Like, only 80 people? Those 80 people were alive before Hurricane Ian came through. How many of those people knew they were gonna die? Probably none of them. And that's the other truth of death, is that even when we're told we have a terminal illness and we're given so many months to live, we still don't know when we're gonna die. These are questions I really, I can't preach them, I won't preach them, but I do think about them, and I do share such thoughts with people in life who are open to receiving. Just a couple of weeks ago, this is an interesting story actually. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was talking on the phone with my mother, and for whatever reason, she brought up the book Tuesdays with Morrie. I said, yeah, I remember that book too. I think I had to read it in school, but I don't really remember it. My mom said, oh, you gotta find it. She says, I don't know where it is. I said, well, Mom, I know I got the copy of the book from you. I just don't know where it is. So anyway, the next day, I was in my closet looking for a dress to wear, and right in front of me was the book Tuesdays with Morrie. I was like, okay, well now that's crazy. So I pulled the book out and I brought it to the kitchen, put it with my little daily notes. Said, I'm gonna start to read this. That was like on a Wednesday. And then several days later on Sunday, my mom called me in the morning and she said, oh my God, you have to put on the CBS Sunday Morning News. They're doing a story on the 25th anniversary of Tuesdays with Morrie. I said, whoa. This is where, for me, I begin, Maxine and Hubert, to see the sequence of events and how messages are delivered to us in life by another universe I refer to as heaven. I was busy on Sunday and I said, okay. So I had Chris record it for me, and I didn't watch the CBS Sunday morning show until the exact moment that Hurricane Ian was coming through at like 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning, Thursday, this past week. And as I watched that segment, I was like, whoa. I totally forgot this book. I didn't remember what it was about. I knew it was a good book, but I really did not remember it. So the next night, we lost power for 3 days. Thankfully, we had a generator, thank God. And I sat on our porch on our little farm in the country with candles lit, a little flashlight in my hand, and I read Tuesdays with Maury from front page to last page in 2 hours, sitting in the near darkness in the country. I literally was in awe reading this book and the beautiful, beautiful thoughts, revelations, and as Maury refers to them, aphorisms. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's a word I've never used, aphorisms, which is something that has a little truth to it. And one of Maury's aphorisms was he knew he was dying with Lou Gehrig's disease, and he knew he only had maybe a few months to live. But still, he believed, one of his aphorisms was, when you're in bed, you're dead. He didn't want to die in bed, but he knew that with Lou Gehrig's, he was going to die. And I just find it beautiful. The whole book, I really, really highly recommend, even to people who have read it before, to read it again. Because I think with everything in life, it is age related. It is what you've lived through in your life, and things that can't make sense when you're in school at the age of 18, when you reread 25 years later, whoa, totally different meaning. I think when I read it in high school, it was merely for a grade. You know, I had to read it and write a paper. That's all it meant to me. But the other night, and I loved that the author, Mitch, shared how Maury said to Mitch, I know I'm dying, and I love these Tuesdays that you come and talk to me. And it was at that point in the book I started to realize, oh my God, that's so funny. Like, I go to the cemeteries on Tuesdays. And this book is Tuesdays with Maury. And when Maury started to get closer to the time of his death, which he did believe all along, he knew when he was going to die, he said to Mitch, don't stop coming to visit me on Tuesdays when I die. When I die, please still come to my grave and visit with me. And Mitch said to Maury, but how will I know that you're even there? You can't talk to me anymore when you die. And Maury looked at Mitch and said, when I die, I will listen. For now, I will talk. And when I die, you will talk, and I will listen. I found that so beautiful, really, because it is true. Even for someone like me who does knowingly communicate with another world, spirit, heaven, I don't hear from every headstone or every soul who has died. It's not about, at that point, hearing in the ways that we hear in life. When I visit the cemeteries, it's about hearing my own self. It's about hearing my own soul. It's about feeling my own soul and speaking from my soul more than just my mind. And it's what I've shared with many other people in life that when you think about it, when we're alive, we all have a mind, a body, and a soul. And when we die, we leave behind our mind and our body, and we take with us our soul. So our soul is eternal in life as it is in heaven, the afterlife, and our soul is what we carry with us. It's like our vault, our bank, our soul. It's where all our most special moments are preserved in ways that we can't even be aware of while we're living in life. This reminds me also when my father-in-law, JC, died back in February. My mother-in-law told me that many days before JC fell sick in bed, his last 2 weeks, she would find him standing in the kitchen looking at their Alexa screen, you know, where you can add pictures to it and it just shows like a continuous slideshow of pictures. And she said, Pansy said every time she'd walk into the kitchen area where their Alexa was, JC would just be standing in front of it, just staring at it. And I got goosebumps when Pansy told me this. And at that point, JC was still alive. He was in bed and almost unresponsive at that point. But I got goosebumps because had she not shared that with me, I wouldn't have been able to feel the truth behind that. And what JC was probably doing at that moment in an unknowing way is that his soul was preparing for his death, his transition from life on earth to heaven. And much like we have to get our oil changed in our car before a trip, fill our gasoline, our tank up with gas, we do all the things in life to prepare for such travels. And the truth is, I believe we also prepare for our death in such ways, but more often than not, it's in unknowing ways, like with JC. Whereas with Maury, from Tuesdays with Maury, Maury knew he was dying. He just didn't know when. I found that beautiful that JC was being gifted by God, really, heaven, those moments to fuel his tank, his soul, so that he could take with him on his journey to heaven all of his loved ones in memory. I still find that to be such a beautiful, beautiful moment. I'm so grateful that Pansy shared that with me. And I've shared that story with many others as well. The truth is, because we don't often think about death or our own death, we kind of go through life on maybe empty or maybe a quarter of a tank, metaphorically speaking. And I believe we should always be driving around with, okay, here how it goes. Like there's the glass half full or the glass half empty. It is how we look at it in life. So there is no right or wrong. Your glass is one or the other, half empty or half full. It depends on how we look at it. So your gas tank, metaphorically speaking, your soul is either always going to be full or it's going to be running on low fuel or empty. So it's really a matter of where do you want to be when you die. I don't want to fear my death. And yet for me, Hubert and Maxine, I love your names by the way, and both of you 76 years old, I believe that we need to embrace death in order to live life. I believe that the school system, you know, they incorporated years ago things like home economics, how to cook and bake and stuff like that, woodworking, all the electives like that. I think we should absolutely teach while we are in our, you know, elementary and middle school and high school ages in school. We should teach about death, and we should teach our children that sure, death should be feared because it is the unknown, but there are ways to have a more fulfilling and prosperous life when you begin to tap into those unknowings and then begin to create your own reception, your own receiving, and you begin to create your own validations, your beliefs, and that's your faith. I'm not saying schools should be teaching religion. Death is not about religion. Not in those ways, anyway. (1908). My parents were born in the 40s. And my dad is 80, my mom I think is 78, 76. I can't keep up with ages. But to me, 100 years ago, 76 was really old for people to die. But today, people live to be over 100 a lot. So, I don't know. What do you think, Maxine and Hubert? I do hope you had good lives. And I do hope you did not fear your deaths. There's fear of the unknown and there's fear of life. So technically speaking, in my own understandings, it's not that we have a fear of death itself, we have a fear of life. We have a fear of knowing certain things in life. And then that crosses over into a whole other philosophical way of thinking about life, which is denial. And we are a universe who does choose to deny such truths of death. And it's like, I don't see how anybody can argue death. It does happen to all of us. It will happen to all of us. And it happens every day. And we do lose those we love at very young ages, babies, teenagers, young adults, new parents. Anyway, I highly recommend everybody read the book Tuesdays with Maury. And even if you have already read it, you've got to read it again. As a matter of fact, this morning before I came here to the cemetery, I pulled out my little orange highlighter and I started to highlight. I went back to the beginning of the book, Tuesdays with Maury, and I began to highlight because there are so many profound thoughts that this beautiful life, two beautiful lives, one dying and one documenting, who shared and preserved such beautiful, beautiful thoughts for life and for death. All right. Maxine, I'm feeling you are a very, very quiet soul in life, Maxine. Very observant. I'm actually seeing a vision of you right now, Maxine. you're sitting on your porch, like you just heard me talking about me sitting on my porch reading this book, and now you're giving me a vision of you sitting on a porch, taking it all in. This vision that you're giving me. I don't know what you were doing. I do see you on a rocking chair. I was not sitting on a rocking chair when I read this book. And so you're giving me the feelings that you were very, very much so an observant life soul. I have to look at the dates again because what I'm feeling now, okay. See, this is what's interesting. So Hubert, you died first, correct? I think so, yeah. 81, you died in 84. Usually on most headstones, I see the husband is on the left and the wife is on the right. So this morning, the first thing I noticed with your headstone is that Maxine, the wife, is on the left, which I'm just telling you what I've seen here at the cemetery. Over 600 headstones I've cleaned. This might be the first headstone I've seen where the wife is on the left. So my first thought, I assumed, this is another fault with life, we assume too much. We perceive falsely by an accumulation of all of our learnings in life. I assumed that Maxine was on the left because she died first. Very interesting. She didn't die first, it was Hubert. And then you lived for another 3 years. That vision of you on the porch, that was of you at some point in those final 3 years of your life, Maxine. You didn't want to live without your husband. And I do find that beautiful. I find that beautiful that you can love somebody so much that when they die, you want to be with them. And that's what I'm still going through right now with my husband when his father died in February. I've been watching and witnessing my own husband in such grief that I don't even know how to rescue or save or add peace to my husband. And yet I talk to so many people in life all the time about death and life. And I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with finding ways to comfort my husband, and yet a lot of it is, I think, it goes back to what I started off saying here this morning, and that is that in life, people don't want to talk about death. Don't talk about it, don't say it. And so after JC died, my father-in-law, all these months, it's been very painful for my husband to hear the words father, dad, JC, anything to do with baseball, sports, UNC, basketball. And that's because my husband's soul is hurting so deeply to have lost his lifeline, his connection to life, his best friend, his partner in life. I may be his wife, but just like Chris with his father, the same is with me and my own mother. My mother is my lifeline. My mother is the one who I live for each day and look forward to talking to every day on the phone. And so during these past many months, I understand it's been so difficult for Chris to hear me talking of, oh, I just hung up with my mom. Yeah, my mom and dad are doing this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, he just keeps falling a few steps back in his own soul. I'm grateful that he is getting ready to go visit his mom in North Carolina for a couple of weeks. He's going to take our oldest daughter, Christina, with him. And I think it's going to be a really beautiful journey for all of them. and it will help all of them with their continued healing. It really has only been a few months, and so we still are going through all of the firsts in life, like holidays and birthdays and anniversaries, without JC here. I'm grateful, so grateful that Chris is able to take this trip, as well as I think he really needs some time away from work, some time away from life, as he knows it to be every day. I myself have not seen my parents in almost a year, and when you take into consideration the hurricane that just came through, life continues to get put on hold for a lot of us, and yet we just have to keep reminding ourselves that everything does happen for a reason. So once Chris returns from his trip to North Carolina, I'm planning on going up to see my parents in South Carolina. There's no doubt that death puts life into perspective, no doubt, and especially depending on how much the person who dies means to you in life. Wow, look at that. This is beautiful. I'm so grateful to be here today. I'm always grateful to be at the cemetery. Always. It is time to think out loud. And what I've always laughed about, which I do also hear, not through my ears, but you know, the souls here like to hear me talk. And so it is just like Maury said in his book, Tuesdays with Maury, that Mitch wrote, talk and I will listen. I love, Maxine, that you gave me that vision of you on the rocking chair, having me feel, literally feel your soul. I don't know anything about your lives, but what I always do when I leave the cemetery is I get out my big yellow Oviedo book and I look up the names. And when I don't find anything in the yellow Oviedo book, I go to cemetery girl number 1, my very, very dear friend Ingrid, who literally knows about almost every single soul buried here. I myself, I don't know. I've been going back and forth for the longest time. My whole life I kept saying I wanted to be cremated. My whole reasoning to begin with when I was a much younger person was I couldn't stand the thought of thinking about my body being in the ground and all the horror stories you hear about bugs, and then you think of like a skeleton and bones, and here we are, Halloween, October month. I'm still embracing my own recent awakening, that whenever I'm here at the cemetery, I never think about that. I never think about there is a body laying under the ground here, and that is because I'm not here for the body. I'm here for the souls. And it is true that our souls will always be available at our final resting place, wherever that may be. So I actually see Hubert right now giving me a vision. He's going, yep, yep. And now you also, Hubert, have me feeling your wife. She was very much so a philosophical thinker. She was not a talker like me, but when she did speak, it was always with great value, profoundness. Wow, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing to say about your wife, too. I may never understand why certain people in life judge others for any reason, really. I'm not here to prove to anybody with what I hear, see, feel, taste, smell from heaven, from spirit. I'm not here to prove to anybody that it's real. I don't need to prove anything, but I do believe sharing is caring. So I do believe that we should continue sharing. And that's one of the things with after my father-in-law JC died, because we all knew that my husband has been hurting so deeply, he's so lost. My daughters, at their young age, all these months now, anytime I bring up anything about heaven or death in positive ways, they, shh, don't say that. Don't talk about that in front of Dad. Don't bring up Papa's name. I go, what? By not bringing him up anymore, you're burying him within your own soul. And just because we bury somebody in the ground after they die doesn't mean that we should bury their soul within our own soul. We should remember them. We should allow the memories to make us feel our smiles and our happiness. Those are the ways we heal, not by denial, not by denying that somebody has died. Death is final. Life is eternal. And that's the ways I look at it. And both of my parents are still alive. So I can't say that I know how I'm gonna feel. I might really lose everything. I might shit when my parents die. I don't know. But what I do know is that I can continue living each day loving my loved ones, my parents, my family, as much as I continue to make myself, allow myself to be aware of my love. Fighting, family arguments, all that kind of stuff, oh, it is such a waste of time. And life, the time we do have in life is the ultimate value. That this world, this universe continues to deteriorate among teaching life, to appreciate life while it's here. Amen, right? All right. I think we're just about done. I'm just going to do one final, getting those letters real good. I'm so happy with this headstone for you both, Maxine and Hubert. Once I finish cleaning your headstone, Hubert and Maxine, I'm going to take a walk through the cemetery and see. A lot of limbs down here. This is a big job. When you think about natural disasters like a hurricane, not entirely man-made really, although a lot of people argue that. It causes total destruction, but at the same time it creates new life. It creates new opportunities, new jobs. Whereas some people before the hurricane had no work, now they're getting a paycheck. And so it's like, and we're all the trees that lose their limbs. These trees needed to lose their limbs anyway. So I call that like nature's haircut, you know, nature's limb cut. And then hopefully for people, when you go through such an event, a moment, you do walk away with more profound thoughts for life itself. Wow, I'm so grateful we were prepared. I'm so grateful we weren't hurt. Nobody we know died. With all of death, be it actual death of a life or metaphorical death of a way of life, we are definitely all meant to create our own profoundness from these moments. And with that, Hubert and Maxine. Beautiful, beautiful. Front and back, and that back is hard. It's all crevices on the back. And we'll get one more set of flowers. Over 600 headstones. I don't leave here and go and share what I hear. I don't even know who to share with what I hear, you know? It's not about sharing in such ways. More so for me at the cemetery, it's about embracing life, as well as embracing death. The unknowns, the unknowings. You know what? I actually really still see a lot of crevices. Well, it is a beautiful day here in sunny Central Florida. When there's one hurricane, there is usually more to follow. And just like any hurricane that comes through, we can never know which ones will come through. Think about where they're coming from, hurricanes. Out in the middle of nowhere. Depths and darknesses of the ocean waters. Makes you think about the movie The Perfect Storm, right? Definitely grateful that we are all okay and that we were prepared. And so we continue to live and learn. All right. clearly I'm not a celebrity of any sort. I don't come to video my headstone cleanings because I hope or aspire to be famous or anything one day. I chose many years ago to start videoing me cleaning headstones as a way of me being able to share in a way that it's an open way of sharing. If you want to watch, you watch. I don't make anybody watch my videos. And I'm still coming to my own understandings that I should not allow myself to feel the judgment from one person who just, I don't know, maybe she's just in awe with me. I certainly don't make anybody watch these videos, but the fact that this person watches them and then continues to judge me and say things like, why does she talk out loud? Who does she think she is? If you're listening, then clearly you're gaining some value. So that's all I can say. Maxine and Hubert, thank you for your lives. Thank you for this time of allowing me to talk out loud and not be interrupted, as well as to gift me with such beautiful visions of your life. I hope you both continue to rest in eternal peace and enjoy all the benefits of being an angel. Beautiful. Thank you, Maxine and Hubert.